Hey guys, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to go ahead and talk about my labor and delivery story. I gave birth 2 months ago. I want to go ahead and tell this story so that I can keep it documented as a memory and just to share my experience with delivering my first baby. I do want to start off by saying that initially I really wanted to do an unmedicated natural vaginal birth. That was my goal, I guess you could say. I just felt like I really wanted to experience that experience of bringing your child to life, like out in the world, naturally, the way that it's supposed to be, the way that your body's supposed to function. Obviously, I don't want to offend anybody with saying that because I know that some people have to have C-sections for whatever reason, or your body just can't push out a big baby, or your body just can't do it. So I don't want to offend anybody by saying that, but that was just my way of thinking about it. Like, my body was meant to do this, so I want to go ahead and try to do it. I gave birth on July 6th and my due date was July 12th, so I gave birth 6 days before my due date. This is my first baby. So a couple of days before I started actually laboring, I started laboring Wednesday, my baby Saturday mornings. Earlier that week, I want to say, I went to the doctor because I thought that my water was leaking that weekend prior, Saturday or Sunday, where we went to the movies with some friends and I went to the restroom, I peed. When I was washing my hands, I felt like a little gush of water come out of me, and obviously I was like 38 weeks pregnant, I want to say. I knew it wasn't pee because I literally just peed. I was like kind of confused. I was kind of nervous because if my water broke, like I needed to go to the hospital because I was GBS positive. When you are GBS positive, they tell you that you should go to the hospital as soon as your water starts leaking, or if your water, what's that word, pops? If your water breaks. If your water breaks, or if you start leaking a fluid, they want you to go to the hospital. Or if your contractions are 3 to 5 minutes apart for over an hour, which is the usual for everybody. And the reason they want you to go into the hospital as soon as you notice your water leaking is because they want to get those antibiotics through your IV as fast as they can before you deliver. For some people, it doesn't work that way, but if you can help prevent it, then that's what they prefer. We were actually watching the Avengers, the new last Avengers movie, which is like 3 hours long or 2 hours long. So we were watching that movie, so I was like, okay, if I feel something during the movie, then I'll go ahead and tell my husband and we can go to the hospital. I didn't feel anything at all throughout the movie. My baby was actually super duper active throughout the movie, like so much. We stayed throughout the movie, we hung out with our friends after the movie. Everything was normal. I just went ahead and called my OB. I let them know what happened. I got seen Monday or Tuesday. They checked me to make sure it wasn't amniotic fluid, and it wasn't that. I think they did a cervical check on me. I'm not even sure anymore. I think they did. Went into active labor Wednesday. Wednesday was pretty normal. It was bearable. I was still doing everything I could. During a contraction, Wednesday night, they started getting a little bit more intense, to the point where I actually had to stop and breathe and just try to remain calm, sit down, kind of like grab something, squeeze it, and just breathe in and out. Come around Thursday, they were obviously way stronger. My contractions lasted, I want to say 35 seconds to a minute. Every single time. They were never below 30 seconds, and they were around 5 to 12 minutes apart. Sometimes they were 3 to 5, but they weren't consistent. And Thursday was when my family, my mom, my dad, and my grandma came down in case the baby was going to hear earlier than expected, and they just wanted to go ahead and help me out, just making me walk everywhere. So I was walking a lot. So Thursday afternoon, they started intensifying even more. By this point, I was feeling it on my lower back area just a little bit. So that was the beginning of back labor for me. It wasn't too painful, but I started feeling some discomfort every time a contraction hit in there. I was like, well, damn, like I thought I was gonna be one of the lucky ones that wasn't gonna have back labor, but here I am having back labor. It was getting harder for me to control my breathing, remain calm, and not tense up. I would honestly forget to not tense up. Once you're already panicking and once you're already tensing through a contraction, it's pretty difficult to lower all of that. The only person that was really helping me through a contraction was my husband. I was trying really hard to do it on my own, but I just couldn't. Like, at that point, I was tired, I wasn't sleeping. And at this point, I felt like my contractions felt 100 times worse. So I didn't really want to lay down or sit too much throughout the day because it was just unbearable like that. That Thursday night, I ended up going to the hospital because everybody was telling me to go to the damn hospital. So I went to the hospital, and because my contractions were, I think, 4 to 5 minutes apart for over an hour, so I was like, okay, let's go see what they say. And as soon as we got to the hospital, my contractions were like not that close together anymore. They started getting further apart. It was, I think, 1 centimeter dilated, and then before I left, I went up to 2 centimeters. They basically told me you could stay here, or you can go home and try to labor it the rest at home, whatever feels comfortable to you. And so obviously I chose to go home. My hips felt like they were on fire, like all around my hips. It felt like they were on fire, plus the belly contractions, plus my lower back feeling like it was broken, like broken. Like it felt like somebody grabbed a hammer, and as hard as they could, they were like smashing my back, hammering my back. And all those 3 different types of pains were just so unbearable. The whole day I was just contemplating on it, but I didn't actually end up going. And then I ended up going to the hospital Friday night, like around 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Friday. That was because I went to go pee, and then I washed my hands, and then I walked back to the bed or something. I felt some fluid come out, and it wasn't a lot of fluid, it was just very light fluid coming out, and I was like, that's weird. So I dried up, I changed my underwear. Within like 10-15 minutes, I felt a little bit more fluid come out. So at that point, I was just like, okay, maybe I should go to the hospital. It happened again. It happened twice in less than 20 minutes. I showered, I got ready. We put everything, all the bags in the car. I got admitted Friday night, and I was so nervous. By that point, I was 5 centimeters dilated. I tried laboring at the hospital, and they gave me one of the medicine balls. So I got on top of that, and I was just bouncing on the medicine ball, and it did help a lot, bouncing through the contractions. But it only helped for about an hour. After an hour and like 15 minutes or an hour and a half, I was like, this shit ain't working. Like, I feel like I'm gonna die. Like, my body was, obviously the contractions were getting stronger and stronger as you continue to dilate. So by that point, I was like, screw this medicine ball. This isn't helping me. I'm gonna cry. Like, I just wanna die. Like, I just wanna lay there and die. Having the monitor there that you can like see when your contraction's gonna come, I feel like was super duper helpful. I was constantly looking at that pain, and I don't know if that was a good or bad thing, but I felt like it was a good thing because I knew before my contraction was gonna start to like brace myself, prepare myself really quickly. Then seeing those numbers spike when your contractions are just rising and rising and rising, oh my god, like panic. Like, it would just bring me into straight panic mode. By that point, I was kind of like crying, and I felt like I just didn't know how to continue with these damn contractions. I didn't know how to calm myself down. I didn't know how to go through them. I was like doubting myself. I didn't want to get it at all. I just did not want to get the epidural. I felt like I had to take the biggest shit of my entire life ever. Like, it was so bad. The pressure on my butt was bad. Like, and I think that's what made contractions a little bit more worse too, because I was already in pain or whatever, but I think that was the worst part of laboring, because at that point I was just focusing on all this damn pressure on my butt. Like, I felt like I needed to poop. I couldn't poop. I couldn't push like anything out. I couldn't squeeze my butt. I couldn't do anything on my whole butt region. It was just a terrible feeling. It doesn't sound terrible, but it's a terrible feeling, the amount of pressure when you have on your butt and you can't do anything about it. In the end, I ended up getting the epidural around 2 in the morning Saturday. Honestly, it didn't hurt at all. Like, it just feels freaking weird. Like, you feel fluid go up and down your spine, and I think that was the worst part of it all. I have a contraction during the procedure, so that was terrible. Oh my god, I was trying not to tense, but I was still tensing. My husband said I was tensing, and the doctor would kind of like remind me, okay, like, relax a little bit more, don't tense up so much. And I was just like, oh my god, like, hurry the hell up. I have a contraction. Like, why would you do this when I'm having a freaking contraction and you're telling me to stay still? Like, I was so like irritable, numb as crap. Like, I couldn't move my legs at all. Like, nurse was like, do you feel anything? And I was like, no. Why? And she was like, well, you're having a contraction right now. And I looked at the monitor thing, and that shit was high as hell. And I was like, oh my god, I don't feel anything. I was like, this is pretty cool. Epidural gave me a huge relief. I was actually able to sleep a couple hours before I had to give birth. Got it at 6.5 centimeters dilated, so I was pretty close, and that's why I was so disappointed. And so getting the catheter put inside wasn't bad at all. I was pretty scared of that because a lot of people say that it does hurt them a lot, and I was like, oh great, more pain. But I actually didn't feel anything. It was just like a slight discomfort for like 5 seconds, and then it was over. You didn't even know it was there. And getting it taken out wasn't bad at all. I didn't even feel it, to be honest. And I got woken up at around 6 in the morning because they were just still like checking up on me and stuff. And one of the doctors said that I had like a second bag of fluids. She said it was pretty normal, and that pretty much every woman that was in labor right now had 2 bags. And I was like, what? They had popped my water because my water didn't break on its own, so they had to pop it for me. I honestly don't remember when they did that. And she did pop my second water at 6 in the morning. At that point, I was around 8 to 9 centimeters dilated, and she said in a couple hours we're gonna get ready for you to start pushing. They checked me a little bit later, a couple hours later, and I was 9 to 10 centimeters, and then we started pushing at 9 in the morning and had him by 9:36. So the whole pushing procedure, I just want to go ahead and talk about that. I felt every single push that I did, like I felt myself pushing. I feel like I felt everything, but I didn't feel it as much pain as I would have, obviously, without the epidural. But I did feel a lot of pressure and pain mixed together, especially when his head was like right there. Like it wasn't out yet, but it was like right there. I guess you can call that crowning. I hated that part. I think that was the worst part of pushing. A little bit painful, and it was just so much pressure. It just felt so uncomfortable. I felt like my hips were separating as I was pushing. Towards the end, when he was like crowning, I felt it was really hard to push because I was pushing as hard as I could. I literally felt like I was gonna poop on my doctor. I felt like poop was just gonna splatter everywhere on her face. TMI, but you know, getting birth is not perfect, and it's not beautiful like in a non-nasty way. It's beautiful in its own way, but it's not like clean and beautiful. Saw him coming out, like I looked down and I saw him when she pulled him out by the head, and that was the most painful part, was the head. The rest of the body was like a big gush of jello coming out, it felt like. But the head was the freaking hardest part and the most like uncomfortable part. I had one minor tear inside, so she just had to do one stitch in there to stop the bleeding. He was born weighing 7.9 pounds. So that being said, that's going to conclude today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, didn't get too bored, and it wasn't too much of a TMI for some part. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment down below your experience. Love to read about it. But yeah, that being said, don't forget to join our little family here on YouTube, and we'll see you guys in our next video. Bye guys.